This Honorable House approves the financial policy of the Government of Ghana for the year ending 31st December 2018. Honorable Speaker, I wish to begin by making 4 preliminary comments on the budget. The first one is an observation I make on Table Appendix 4A on page 174 of the budget. When you compare the allocation and the compensation of employees, wages and salaries, to the allocation made on page 173 of the 2017 budget, you notice that wages and salaries have jumped from 79,392,760 in 2017 to 119,670,565. This gives you an increment in terms of actual increment of 40,277,805, a percentage increase of 50.7%. So the Honorable Minister said here last week that he was concerned about the public wage, and he wanted in the coming year to sit with organized labor. But if you look at the national situation, the public wage bill moved from 16 billion to 19.6 billion, and that's just 22.4%. But at the Presidency, the wage bill has skyrocketed by 50.7%, inconsistent with the national average. So the point really is that charity must begin at home. And that is why I want to renew the call that the minority has been making, that in line with the laws of our country, the Office of Government Machinery must let this House have the full list of staffers at the Presidency. These jumps in just 9 months, between March and November, you've added 40.2 million cedis to the compensation budget. So the problem is not with organized labor. The problem is at the Presidency. If you combine the wages and salaries, Mr. Speaker, if you combine the wages and salary of 15 ministries, the wages and salaries of 15 ministries, the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, that's just 90 million. Ministry of Fisheries, Ministry of Energy, Ministry of Water Resources and Sanitation, Ministry of Works and Housing, Ministry of Railway Development, Ministry of Aviation, Transport, Youth and Sports, Trade and Industry, Planning, Business Development, Special Development Initiatives, Ministry of Inner City and Zongo Development, Monitoring and Evaluation, Regional Reorganization. You still do not get to this figure. You get a total of just 114 million. Still a shortfall of 4.7 million cedis, all going to the Presidency alone. And I am very, very concerned about this. The second observation I make, Mr. Speaker, is on page 184 of the budget. If you look at the table provided as Appendix 6, Policy Initiatives, Priority Programs and Alignment to Statutory Funds, Mr. Speaker, I am concerned that 400 million cedis is being allocated to a body called GIRSIL. I have gone through the table of abbreviations from pages 3 all the way to 9, and there is no such abbreviation or acronym. So I'm drawing the attention of the Honorable Finance Minister. If this House must approve 400 million cedis to a body, this budget must let us know. We must know who we are approving this 400 million cedis to. This is a very important matter. Mr. Speaker, still on that page, I discovered something strange. The item numbered 14 and the Ministry of Finance. A whopping 40 million cedis has been provided for a housing initiative under the Ministry of Finance, item 14, on page 184. When there is a Ministry of Works and Housing, why is the Ministry of Finance arrogating to itself a housing initiative. And they give themselves 40 million cedis. Page 184. 184. We demand to know what this housing initiative is and why it is not under the Ministry of Works and Housing. What is the problem with our honorable colleague, the Honorable Atta, who in my view is working so hard, my namesake, who I admire so much? Let him have his money to develop the housing sector. Mr. Speaker, I am also concerned. The third preliminary observation I make has to do with paragraph 218 of this budget. Paragraph 218 of this budget tells us, and Mr. Speaker, I do not need to remind honorable members that we were told that the 2017 budget was under the theme, sowing the seeds for growth and jobs. This budget, 2018, is also under the theme, putting Ghana back to work. And yet, Mr. Speaker, I am so shocked that paragraph 218, this government is bold to report to Parliament and the people of Ghana that Masslocs, the Microfinance and Small Loans Center, all they did in the year, all they did was that, quote, the center allocated 2 vehicles and 19 tricycles, unquote. I believe that honorable members of Parliament here, individual members of Parliament have done better in our constituencies. Only two vehicles. 2 vehicles and 19 tricycles. Abba. And you say, Mr. Speaker, and you say that you are sowing the seeds for growth and jobs. What kind of seed is this? If you compare Masslocs output, Masslocs outturn in 2016, Masslocs in 2016 disbursed 362 personal loans, 5,192 group loans, hired out 20 new vehicles and 965 tricycles. 965, not 19. So, Mr. Speaker, if the people of this country are looking for the political party that understands empowering people and creating real jobs, sustainable jobs, it is clearly the National Democratic Congress. Mr. Speaker, the fourth observation I make, I am deeply worried, Mr. Speaker, about a growing trend and an emerging phenomenon in this budget. Page 143 of this budget, we are introduced to something called the Akufo-Addo Program for Economic Transformation, PET. Then, Mr. Speaker, that is not enough. On page 184, we are also introduced to a new intervention, His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo's plan for agricultural roads. Mr. Speaker, as a political science student, I learned at the University of Ghana, where the Right Honorable Speaker, Prof. Okwe, was the head of our department, that this is a tendency that happens in totalitarian and authoritarian regimes. Yeah. We didn't see this under President Rawlings. We didn't see this under President Kufuor. We didn't see this under President Mills. We didn't see this under President Mahama. So what is going on? Akufo-Addo Program for Economic Transformation. His Excellency Nana Addo's plan for agriculture roads. Please, this is what, Mr. Speaker, this is what Nikita Khrushchev defines as the cult personality. Cult of personality, personality cult. This personality cult that we are trying to create in this 2018 budget must be aborted immediately. This is a democracy. We want our projects to be nationally owned. Let us all work together to make projects work. This business of trying so hard to name projects after the president when he's even yet to deliver. He's yet to deliver. What happens in this country? What happens in this country is that when you deliver and the people appreciate that you have delivered, they will name it after you, like we named the yellow mass transit buses after President Akufo. We called it Akufo buses because he had delivered, like the way the community day schools are being called the Mahama schools. He had delivered. It was never put in the budget. It was never put in the budget as Mahama community day schools. Let us stop this personality cult and get to work. Get to work. Fortunately, the theme for this year's budget is putting Ghana back to work. I think that the executive has had enough of these games. Let's get to work. Sloganeering and authoritarian and totalitarian tendencies will not take us anywhere. Mr. Speaker, free SHS. We have been vindicated when we told our colleagues on the other side that the allocation of 400 million cedis was inadequate. They called us names. Today, the Honorable Finance Minister came to Parliament and said that the allocation was inadequate. They are already projecting to spend 485 million, and it is still going up. They refuse to listen to us. They have done the same thing again. They've done the same thing again in the 2018 budget. 2018, we are talking about 4 terms. You needed to make provision for 4 terms, and yet you have provided only 1.13 billion cedis for free SHS. Woefully inadequate. But Mr. Speaker, what is even more troubling, the whole of Ghana expected that this 2018 budget and the education will have come with a Marshall Plan, a rescue package for the free SHS disaster which this country is grappling with. And Mr. Speaker, I'm happy the majority leader is here. I have a Ghana web publication. Free SHS is a challenge. Majority leader admits. It's here. Another Ghana web publication. I wept after visiting free SHS students, Dr. Mwakutufo, a leading member of the New Patriotic Party. The current Director General of GES, Professor Opoku Amankwa, is on a tour currently. This is the verdict. Free SHS facing serious challenges. Mr. Speaker, no wonder this week, Monday this week, the state-owned newspaper, Daily Graphic, led with this story. SHS's risk closure, scholarships, subsidies, food supplies in arrears, and according to the CHAS President, Mrs. Cecilia Kwachi Ofosu. Mrs. Cecilia Kwachi Ofosu. This is a state-owned media. But Mr. Speaker, we didn't need the CHAS President to come and tell us that they have to close down these schools. For those on the other side, the chairman of the Education Committee was saying that when we talk about challenges, we are engaged in propaganda. I've come here with pictorial evidence. Mr. Speaker, this is La Presby Senior High School. Free SHS, they are sitting on blocks, cement blocks. Mr. Speaker, Gomoa German Community Senior High School, no furniture. They are on the floor. They are learning, sitting on the floor. Mr. Speaker, three town SHS, 3 town senior high school. They are learning under trees. Mr. Speaker, Chiana Senior High School. They are learning under a tent, a makeshift tent, and under trees. Chiana. Kapohin Senior High School. Kapohin in Tamale. Chobos, Trans, they are living rough. They are sleeping in corridors, sleeping in open corridors. Vitin Senior High School, sleeping on the floor. What evidence again do you want to see before you address the mess? Mr. Speaker, the point has to be made that this budget has not made an allocation to address these challenges. We have read a response to the CHAS statement by the Ghana Education Service. What the government is conveniently telling Ghanaians is that only 53 schools, they have sent 20%. They have sent 20%. Please. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service must take the people of this country seriously. The La Presec headmaster was for just saying that they are having challenges. As we speak,
your 15 minutes is exhausted.
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, those who are saying no, please check. The time count is on all of you.
Mr. Speaker.
All of you. So if there's anybody who can say that they have not recorded 15 minutes, stand up and say that. Honorable member, wind up, please.
Mr. Speaker, the claim by the chairman of the Education Committee that they have cleared all arrears in the education sector is false. I have here, apart from free SHS, 80% in arrears. Subsidy for senior high schools, second term, third term, first term is in arrears. Additional subsidy for senior high school, second term, third term, first term is in arrears. Feeding grant for colleges of education is in arrears, 12.1 million cedis. The trainee allowances are not going. National service allowances are in arrears. They haven't been paid for October. Everything is in arrears. The colleges of education, the teachers are on strike for 3 weeks now. The education sector is being run down. It's in such a big mess. It a plan immediately for Mr.
Shall we have some order, please?